We're still on the 13th of Nisan. Esther has hosted the first banquet. And, or maybe it's no, wait a second. No, it's not the 13th of Nisan. I made a mistake. The first banquet is either, thank you very much, it's either the 15th or the 16th. Okay. Anyway, and Haman comes out and he's thrilled, joyful and exuberant with all of his greatness. And he sees that Mordechai is not bowing down before him. He's devastated. Still, he won't take revenge against Mordechai individually because he's embarrassed to do that. It's one man and a Jew. He comes home, and this we said in verse 10. He sent for his friends and his wife, Zeresh, in that order. The vocabulary here is really exquisite. And Haman recounted to them the glory of his wealth and his many sons in every instance where the king had promoted him and advanced him above the officials and royal servants. Haman said, moreover, Queen Esther invited no one but myself to accompany the king to the banquet that she had prepared. Tomorrow, too, I'm invited by her, along with the king. Yet all this means nothing to me, so long as I see that Jew Mordechai sitting at the king's gate. And we explained that king here is Kodesh Baruch Hu, and he understands that Mordechai is something more precious than all of his material success. Fine. That's his complaint. 14. Then his wife Zeresh and all the friends said to him, are the alarm bells ringing?
What? Oh, yeah.
Why?
Why would they all say this?
No. Well, the alarm bells should be ringing now. They switched the order. He called his friends and his wife. And now his wife and his friends answer. It means she jumped to the top. She led the pack. That will be brought back against her. Okay, so here's what they suggest. Let a gallows be made, 50 cubits high, and tomorrow morning speak to the king and have them hang Mordechai on it. Then in good spirits accompany the king to the banquet. This suggestion pleased Haman, and he had the gallows erected. I suppose, meaning, if you speak to the king and the king kills Mordechai, then you don't look like someone who's taking revenge on a single Jew. You're behind the scenes. You're not doing it on your own. So you're worried that you're going to look like a trivial person taking revenge on a Jew, of all things. Could be avoided. Now, you could ask, and you should ask, why does the text mention 50 cubits high? Indeed, why does she specify 50 cubits high? The height of the tree makes a big difference, and as you will see in a couple of chapters, it does make a big difference. It's a crucial factor. So we'll come to that when we get there. But you should always ask, why is this detail put into the text? The text is not there just to pass the time of day. Yeah.
Was his wife Zeresh also the Amalekite tribe?
I don't know. But she's credited with hating Jews. There's no question about that. So, his suggestion pleased Haman, and he had the gallows erected. That night, sleep eluded the king. So he ordered that the record book, the Chronicles, be brought and read before the king. Now I was going to make a joke here because everybody knows that history is so boring that you fall asleep. So he had them read the history, so he'll fall asleep. But the commentators point out that the description of the book is not the normal description. Divrei Hayamim is a history book. But before that, it's called Sefer Zechronos. How do they translate it here? The record book. Zechronos are things that are recorded. They're recorded, they shouldn't be forgotten. Why is he doing that? If it's just a question of the boringness of history, let him read a history book. And here the commentators say something which I think the text really does hint at. Maybe I'm guilty of not fulfilling a responsibility to someone. Apparently, he slept well, usually, and he can't sleep, and he is thinking, he's studied some Sigmund Freud, there must be something subconscious that's bothering me. Maybe he gets worried that maybe I haven't, and of course, this is the king. Maybe I owe somebody something. So I have to pay him. I can't hold things back from people. Protecting his popularity, the whole thing, the whole time.
Was Achashverosh a moral person?
I have no reason to think so. Here, he's worried about his popularity. He's worried about his acceptance in the eyes of the people. That's what he's worried about. Something that's quite selfish. So I have no reason to think that it's morality. There's a fellow, a Scotsman named Dale Carnegie, who wrote a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. That book has been translated into 60 languages, including Hebrew, and Rosh Yeshiva recommend it to their students. It is full of good strategies for making friends and influencing people. If you read the book, it's clear he has absolutely only one motive: make more money. That's his motive. You'll just make more money this way. But so what? His strategies are good strategies. So you don't have to borrow his motive. Just learn the strategies. So he has the Sefer Zechronos. I don't know if that phrase is used anywhere else. But it's not a phrase that's typically used. Yamim is used many times, but not Sefer Zechronos. So that's what they're building it on. There it was found recorded that Mordechai had denounced Bigthana and Seresh, two of the king's servants of the guardian of the threshold, who had plotted to lay hands on King Achashverosh. Yeah, because Mordechai found out about it, told Esther, and Esther told it to the king in Mordechai's name. And so when the king pursued the evidence and found that Bigthana and Seresh were in fact trying to kill him, it was done in the name of Mordechai. And so it was written not in the history book, but in the Sefer Zechronos. So Sefer Zechronos is the Sefer where things are recorded to take care of. So the king says, did we take care of this? In particular, did we reward Mordechai in any way for saving my life? As I said a few chapters ago when it happened, you would expect that someone would want to reward people for saving his life because you'll live longer that way.
That's the popularity portion. If he doesn't reward him, then no one wants to.
No, this is better now. We switch gears now. We're talking about two people who wanted to kill the king, and Mordechai found out about it, told Esther, and Esther told the king in Mordechai's name. Right? It comes out that Mordechai saved the king's life. This has nothing to do with popularity. It has to do with surviving, wanting to stay alive rather than dead. Right? And here, if somebody saves your life, if you treat him nicely and reward him, then other people who might have inside information and protect you will be encouraged to come forward and protect you. But if you just discard him and give him no credit whatsoever, then there's very little incentive for anybody to save your life. So it's a stupid thing to do, not to reward people who save your life. Especially if you're king, and because you're king, your life is in danger. People want to kill the king. So what's the reason for killing the king? Yeah.
So why didn't he reward Mordechai immediately?
Right. So we spoke about that when the incident took place, and the only explanation.
Amen.
Explanation that I saw was who is Mordechai? Mordechai is a Jew. Who are the Jews? Achashverosh is king over 127 provinces. Each province is the province of a people with its own government, with its own geographical area, with its own institutions, its politics. The Jews alone are a scattered, conquered, defeated minority.
So why is he just choosing to reward him now?
Because he can't sleep. So something's bothering him. since he realizes that something's nudging him, right? He takes this as a sign. I could interpret this as a kind of superstition, when you can't sleep and you go looking and so on and so on. He's nervous, and he thinks, and even if he's a member of a despised group, a group that's degraded, a group that's not honored, still he did save his life. So at this point, it strikes him that he's made a mistake. And he asks, because he doesn't remember the incident, he asks, what honor or dignity has been conferred upon Mordechai for this? Asked the king. And the answer he gets from the ones who are reading from the book, nothing has been done for him.
In the middle of the night?
Yeah, when he can't fall asleep. When replied the king's, I can't think, it's not pages. Gimel. Yeah. A page boy is someone you send with messages. That's what it is. I don't know, but they use these words from medieval period, and they have nothing to do with the Hebrew.
Replied the king's pages. That the king's pages are. Is he referring to like the book said?
No.
That's
It's just it's phony. The word page comes from English 400 years ago. Thank you. That a certain type of servant was called a page boy, because he went out looking for someone and yelling his name in public to find him. And that's the verb was to page someone, was to yell his name in public so he should identify himself so he can be found.
I don't understand.
That was before the use of the word page.
Is that what a pager is?
In 400 years ago in English, we're not living then. We're living now in 2020, right? In those times, they took the word from 400 years ago. They shouldn't have used it. So it's not, no English reader knows what a page is, except for a page in a book.
So in this term, a page is someone who reads from a book?
No! The word in Hebrew is misharsav. He's a misharis. Misharis is a servant. He's a servant, that's all.
Not a page is a servant?
Okay, look, forget it. We don't need this. I'm not going to go into the history of English from 400 years ago. We don't need that, right? Okay. So, the king said, who is in the courtyard? Not court, they always make this short. Not coming to where the judges sit in the middle of the night. Courtyard, the paved area before the wall of the house. Okay. Meaning, the king is thinking, let's do it. It was a mistake. We left it out. I can't sleep. Something's wrong. Let's do it. Let's get somebody to do it. Now, the Megillah fills in the drama. Haman had just come into the outer courtyard of the palace to speak to the king. The wife and the mother, the wife and the friends said, tomorrow morning, speak to the king. That's what they said. But boy, Haman's on fire. He's on fire. This idea to get my revenge against Mordechai now, not waiting for the morning. The king might be asleep. I'm going now. Let's go back to what you said about his being emotional. There's another example, like an out of control emotion. It's a nice insight that you had about that. Okay, he's coming. So now, and when they put it in parentheses, obviously in Hebrew no parentheses, but it is a good way to indicate the meaning of the verses. I think. I don't think it's artificial or wrong. I was just coming out of the courtyard of the palace to speak to the king about hanging Mordechai on the gallows he had prepared for him. Do you see the gigantic irony coming up? Yeah. Haman's coming in to kill him, and the king wants to reward him. There's going to be a clash here, boys and girls. It's not going to go smoothly. But now the king does something which also needs to be understood. I'm leaving out a lot. When I come back at the end, I'll go back through this in more detail. So the king's servants answered him, it is Haman standing in the court. And the king said, let him enter. When Haman came in, the king said to him, what should be done for the man whom the king especially wants to honor? Now put yourself in Haman's position. He thinks to himself, who could he be talking about?
Me.
Only me. He doesn't even know about the incident with Mordechai.
No idea.
He doesn't even know that Mordechai saved the king's life. Certainly not thinking of Mordechai. And who else could it be but me? So he says, the king asks, what should be done? Oh, I'm going to make it up good, right? Because I want the top of the line. I want everything. So he says, now Haman reasoned to himself. You see, the text doesn't let you figure it out on your own. The text is very melodramatic. It puts everything in, it reaps the drama. Yeah. Who would the king especially want to honor besides me? So Haman said to the king, for the man whom the king especially wants to honor, have them bring a royal robe that the king has worn, and a horse that the king has ridden, one with a royal crown on its head.
On the horse's head?
Well, that's the way it sounds. It's like, and the oral tradition says, what he really meant is the crown should be on his own head. But he started to say that, and he saw the king's face change. So he said, put it on now. Is it better on the horse?
Did it actually say that, or is that just the English sentence?
No, okay, so it's to indicate it's the king's horse. But the crown on the head of the horse, could be taken as a terrible. It's worthy of Purim, You are a horse. That's what he's implying. Okay, either way, but
No, it's not.
Specifically for a horse.
It's not saying that the crown is put on the horse's head.
Yeah, it is.
Well-
It's just the English translation.
let's try to do the Hebrew literally. V'sus v'asher nitan, and that Keser Malchus should be placed on his or its head. Rosho is ambiguous in Hebrew. It could be the horse or it could be the person. But the oral tradition says he meant himself, and when the king's face changed, the royal crown does not belong on anybody else's head. That's absurd. So they put it on the horse's head, and it does belong to the king, so, even though he had to.
No, really?
Wow.
Then, let the robe and the horse be entrusted to one of the king's most noble officers. Oh, there's another role in this drama. Hey, Haman, maybe this is you. Not the recipient, but the most noble officer. And let them attire the man whom the king especially wants to honor. He shouldn't have to put it on himself. Chas v'shalom. They're going to dress him. And parade him on horseback throughout the city square, proclaiming before him, this is what is done for the man whom the king especially wants to honor. Now, it is very interesting that the king puts this to Haman impersonally. Why did the king simply say to Haman, he's his prime minister after all, say, listen, I couldn't sleep, and I had the Sefer Zichronos brought to read, and I found out Mordechai saved my life, and we didn't do anything to honor him. I think something should be done to honor him. Do you have any suggestions? But what could be done? What could be the procedure? No. What should be done if there is some man the king wants to honor? So we have to ask ourselves, what exactly is the king's intention here? So I'll tell you just a little bit. We'll do it more when we go back over it. Why did Esther invite Haman to the parties? What was that for? So you could say, to put Haman off his guard. Yes, definitely. As he said when he came home to his family, I'm friends. I alone am invited, so he's on the top of the world. But also to cause a thought in the king's mind. Why is she doing this? Why is she inviting Haman also? Okay, he's prime minister. Still, twice in a row? She's inviting him twice in a row? Now, kings are usually suspicious of their close associates who gain too much influence and too much power. Stalin used to murder his closest advisors every 5 or 10 years. Just murder them all. Because if you're a close advisor and then people use the advisor as a way of having leverage with the king, he gets a lot of influence. And it could go to his head. So they just murder them. Here, Esther is planting suspicion in the king's mind about Haman. So here, the king wants to sort of pull Haman down a notch. Because the king knows what he's going to do. It's Mordechai that's going to be honored. And Haman says, one of the most noble officers? Oh, you're a noble officer, all right? You're the prime minister. Right? So I think the king here is expressing a little distance from Haman, which is good. That's what he should be doing. And it shows the success of Esther's plan. Fine. So this is what Haman says should be done. 10. Then the king said to Haman, hurry, get the robe and the horse, as you have said, and do all this for Mordechai the Jew, who sits at the king's gate. Do not omit a single detail that you have suggested. Pretty clear and emphatic instruction. What's missing?
So it seems like they're doing this in the middle of the night. Because he's saying, hurry, go do this immediately. And this is right now in the middle of the night when the king can't sleep. So he's going to parade him around at like 4 a.m.?
I'm not sure.
Also, why is Mordechai the Jew still outside?
No. It says who sits continuously at the king's gate. Not that he's sitting, not 24 hours a day.
But he's just all the time.
Well, all the normal time to be there, he's there because Esther's in their palace, and now it's the crisis of the proposed annihilation of the Jews. By the way, Shochinad Marov V'Kodosh Shmo. Melech Hayoshev Al Kisei Rom Venisa, right? What do we say in Rosh Hashanah? We don't say Melech Hayoshev. We say Melech Yoshev without the hay. What's the difference? The difference is Hayoshev means that's his custom. Regularly. The Korban Tamid was offered twice a day. Not 24 hours a day, every minute. It's twice a day. Ner Tamid. The Ner was written once a day in the evening. But every day. It's periodic. Rosh Hashanah, he's sitting there that moment. Melech Yoshev. Now he's sitting there. That's why you take away the hay. It's very dramatic. Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, you say Melech Yoshev, not Ha Yoshev. So here it's the Ha Yoshev. But what's missing? Missing is the crown. King's instructions left out the crown. Don't give me you wearing the crown and don't give me the horse wearing the crown. Forget that. Huh? You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. He mentioned three things Haman did. The robe, the horse, and the crown. The king says the robe and the horse and leaves the crown out. Because neither is appropriate. Certainly not appropriate for another person to wear it. It's not appropriate for the horse to wear it.
Wait, so where is his crown? This stays on the king.
The king doesn't have to wear his crown 24 hours a day or when he's awake. But it is the symbol of being the king. It doesn't belong on anyone else. And certainly not on a horse. So I guess from Chashvesh's point of view, it doesn't belong. We might think it would be appropriate. But okay, so now, the diuk that she made is right. I didn't notice it before, the Maher, doing it quickly, and it is the middle of the night. So I have to check that, Bli Neder. So because it really doesn't make sense. The whole point is to publicize it. The middle of the night, there's almost nobody in the square. So it won't have the effect. So Haman took the robe and the horse and attired Mordechai and led him through the city square, proclaiming before him, this is what is done for the man whom the king especially wants to honor. Wow. Degradation. Bang. He's really, he's on the bottom of the world now. Okay, it's over. Mordechai returned to the king's gate. where he's been sitting the whole time.
He's there at 4 a.m. Mordechai.
I'm sorry?
Mordechai also just happened to be there at 4 a.m.
No, I'm saying I don't believe that it happened in the middle of the night. I don't know how to.
Do it.
I know. It says hurry. I know what it says, but here some other explanation has to be given because it won't have the effect. So I think that even though the word hurry is there, it doesn't mean to do it in the middle of the night. You ask, but it says hurry. I agree with you. It's a good question. It's a good question. But, this is a piece of logic. The fact that you don't have a right answer to the question doesn't mean you can't identify wrong answers to the question. Very often, we have a question, people suggest answers and say, that one's wrong. I don't know what the right answer is, but I know that one's wrong. Pharaoh with his dreams, right? And his advisors, magicians, all suggest interpretations, and Pharaoh says, these interpretations are wrong. I don't know the right one, but I know these are wrong. And then when Joseph presents his interpretation, he says, that's the right interpretation. Because you can have a sign, you can have a key. And when you don't present the key, then it's not right. You know what the key will open up, you don't know. Right? So here I'm saying the right understanding of the event is it happened in the daytime. How you say it says hurry to the middle of the night, it's a good question. It's a good question, I don't have an answer. But to say that it happened in the middle of the night is the wrong answer. That to me is the wrong answer, and so I'm pushing it out. I just discovered over Shabbos, a grandson-in-law of mine, wonderful, wonderful fellow, showed me a pasuk in Dvarim where it says, I have not given you a heart to understand and eyes to see and ears to hear until this day. And Rashi says, to understand the kindnesses, the chasadim that I do with you. It took 40 years for you to appreciate the kindnesses. And the Sifsei Chachamim says, because the pshat in the pasuk, you didn't have a heart to hear, a heart to understand, eyes to see, and ears to hear. The great miracles I did for you is just false. It's false. The words in the pasuk read that way are wrong. So you got to say something else. The Targum Yonason says, I didn't give you a heart to forget. I gave you a heart to understand and remember. He has to put in the forget. That's not in the verse. And the Perish Yonason says, because otherwise, you'd have a taina, if you didn't give me a heart to understand, then I'm not responsible for not understanding, because you didn't give it to me. You didn't give me the ability to understand. So you can't hold it against me that I didn't understand. I had no bechira. I had no free choice on it. So that can't be the meaning of the verse. So here's where you have cases where you look at the words in the verse, you translate them according to the dictionary, the translation you get is wrong, and you don't say, God's smarter than I am, and He knows everything, and I have to submit myself, and if it's beyond my logic, who can put any limitations on God, and so on and so on. No, you don't say that. What you say is, this way of understanding the verse is wrong, you have to understand it another way. How we do this, and when you do this, and when you can and when you can't do this, is a very delicate issue. I have never worked out any rules to determine, but you have it over and over again. Tosfos many times does this sort of thing. It's just a fact about the tradition that's what's done. Okay, so now watch what happens here. We get the denouement of this chapter. To 13, Haman hurried home, despondent, with his head covered. See, over and over again, you're right. This is now his emotions again. He's in despair. I'd never noticed that before. It's a constant emotional description of Haman. There's got to be something to learn from that. Haman told his wife Zeresh and all his friends everything that happened to him. Wow. He told them, look, you gave me this advice. Look what happened. Now watch how the sentence continues. And his advisors and his wife Zeresh, what? What happened? Well, first of all, it's switched the order again, right? Because now she won't talk first. She's in trouble now because she led the pack beforehand, right? And what happened to his friends? They're not friends anymore. Haman's on the way down. So, friendship is political friendship is fickle, and they become just advisors, and they tell him he's on the way down. By the way, I don't know if you're aware of this, but people who win the lottery, the majority of them, it ruins their lives. It ruins their lives. And one of the things that it does is it deprives them of friendship. Because now, whenever anybody acts in a friendly manner to them, or does something for them, they have to be suspicious that they're just looking for a gift. That's all. So it ruins their friendships. It's a terrible, terrible thing. And here, his friends were political friends. He's the prime minister. It pays to be the friend of the prime minister. Yeah, that's good. That's good. And now he's not going to be prime minister for long, and he may be dead. Friendship is behind. So he answered them in the order in which they spoke to give him the advice. But now Zeresh moves to the back of the pack, because she led the pack in giving this terrible advice, terrible in the sense that the outcome was horrible, and now she moves to the back of the pack. Yeah.
I seem to have missed something. Where is the part where I thought at this time this is where someone pours like a bucket of stuff? That doesn't say that there.
Yes, it does. Well, it's hinted. Maybe I just skipped reading it. The third line at the end. Haman hurried home, despondent and with his head covered. What does that mean? Became Jewish for the hour, put on a yarmulke.
I thought it meant that he was just like embarrassed, doesn't want to show his face.
Why should he be embarrassed?
Because he just...
Nobody knows about his secret plan. Nobody knows that he's been ruined. Right? The king wants to honor Mordechai, and he had to hold the prime minister to honor him.
Okay.
He's doing a direct service to the king. So I don't know why. So the head covered because she spilled the garbage on his head from above.
How just from that term we know who did it and when?
You don't know. You don't know. This is why you have an oral tradition. Yeah.
So it says on 257, when they were giving the advice, they said, why don't you hang Mordecai the Jew? And then on 258, it says, if Mordecai is of Jewish descent, then you won't prevail against him.
We didn't get there yet.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet, but I'll read it now, and then we'll comment on it.
Okay.
Haman told his wife Zeresh and old friends everything that happened to him. As advised, his wife Zeresh said to him, if Mordecai, before whom you've begun to fall, is of Jewish descent, you will not prevail against him, but will undoubtedly fall before him. Now, if doesn't always connote uncertainty. You say, so-and-so murdered the Archduke in wherever it was in Central Europe, right? Serbia, right? So he says, if he murdered the Duke, there's going to be a war. He doesn't mean maybe the reports are false, maybe it's exaggerated, maybe he's only in coma, maybe it was somebody else, I'm not sure, let's wait for confirmation. He's just working out the consequences. Like, okay, this is true, well, let's see now. This is true, then that's true. Right? That's just the way you respond by working out the further consequences of what has happened. So here it doesn't mean that there's a doubt. Right? It's taking
It says earlier they knew he was Jewish.
Yes, they do, but they're now putting it together. You attacked him. This turned around on you in this way. Well, let's take into account the fact that he's Jewish. If we take into account the fact that he's Jewish, then you're going to be stuck. We have to explain what they mean. Why is the fact that he's Jewish got a role here? Well, what is it? How does it drive the conclusion? Now, just let me check the... Wait 1 second. I just want to check the Hebrew here. Yeah. By the way, there is the usage, maybe this is better even. There is a usage of the word im, which is definite. Like, if there will be the Yovel. And it's not suggesting that maybe time will stop. Or the whole world will be destroyed. So sometimes im just refers to when something will happen. It doesn't care, it's not, if is not the right translation altogether. So my guess is that's the simplest way out. Yeah.
I was going to ask them on in the Torah that the word im can mean when too. How do we know when it's the right way to use it?
Well, sometimes you know from the context and logic. And here, I think it was right to ask if it meant if. It does sound weird because it's not in doubt. You know, I mean, there's a Rosaji going on this. Rabbi Meisman has this in his book. You have to be prepared to use logic. Chava, Adam's wife, was called Chava, ki hi haisa eim kol chai. She was the mother of all living. Oh yeah? Including the squirrels? Salamanders? Foxes? Probably not, right? Oh no, of course, don't be stupid. It means people. Really? She was Adam's mother? No. She was her own mother? No. So, okay. All right. So then it doesn't mean Adam, it doesn't mean her, she was her own mother. It means, what's reasonable to say. All the others were descendants of her, So that's what it means. So you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to do that because the text is obviously expecting it of you. Doesn't mean to say, listen, God's talking, anything could be true, so she could be her own mother. No, that's not the right approach. Who am I to pass judgment with my finite human mind? There may be religions like that, but it ain't Judaism.
Well, we do this thing called Mother Nature.
Yeah, Mother Nature, that's right. but she didn't live, she didn't try to deceive Adam, she didn't, Mother Nature didn't do that. Okay, so now, what does this mean, seeing that he is of the Zerah of the Yehudim, the seed of the Jews, that if you started to fall, then you're going to fall the rest of the way. The statement is, there's no equality. One's on top and the other's on bottom. So, up until now, you were prime minister, and he was a member of a despised group, refugees. Now, it started to swing, the scales will not stay in the center. If it started to swing, then he's going up and you're going down. Where would this idea come from? It's a pretty explicit verse in the book of Genesis. Yaakov and Esau, right? When they're born, it told us. So when Rivka is pregnant with the twins, if you want to see it, it's on 124. When Rivka is pregnant with the twins, and they're struggling, and she doesn't know it's twins, so she thinks it's a single embryo. That's a whole story with that, and I'm not going to that now, but you have to think about that. So she's in despair, and she goes to seek Hashem, which means her husband doesn't have the answer. And Hashem says to her, probably through shame, 2 peoples are in your abdomen, and 2 nations from your innards will separate, and the might, the power will pass from one to the other. That means they don't both have it at the same time. It goes from one to the other. Therefore, if one goes up, the other one goes down. So the elder has to serve the younger. So this was a Jewish tradition with this kind of competition. Either you're up or you're down. But you don't have a kind of equality. So you were up, you're on your way down, and you're going to go to the bottom. And that's why his friends all of a sudden became his advisors. We're not friends anymore. And you'll see he repeated that. Charvona does exactly the same thing.
Is that just referring to the descendants of Esau or in general?
It should be the descendants of Esau. Should be the descendants of Esau. Whether here we're talking about, well, of course, he's a Molech. Right. And the Molech is a descendant of Esau. Right. So it applies to Haman directly. Literally. Directly and literally, yeah.
So should we learn that the descendants of Ishmael could be in equilibrium with the Jews, or is that being like, is that the kind of form of logic that you were just talking about? We should.
No, I think that's right. I think that's right. From the very fact that you have to be told there won't be equilibrium with Esav, it means that without being told, the assumption is there could be equilibrium. Otherwise, you wouldn't have to be told. And then when you're only told in this case, so then it comes out that you should you should assume, without further information, that in other cases it is possible. I think that's right. I think that's good logic.
Okay.
Okay, so the end of the chapter. By the way, the chapters are totally irrelevant. They were made by medieval Christians. So don't read anything into the chapters. And the only thing you could read something into is the block of Hebrew text. If you look on the right-hand side of the page, you'll see there's no break here in the Hebrew text. So it shouldn't be thought of as that we came to the end of something and now something new is starting. Absolutely not. 14, while they were still talking to him, the king's servants arrived, and they hurried to bring Haman to the banquet which Esther had arranged. So the king and Haman came to feast with Queen Esther. The king asked Esther again on the second day of the feast, "What is your request, Queen Esther? It shall be granted you. What is your petition?" Now they write even if, but I don't think that's the right shot. He said, the same thing he said the first time. Up to half the kingdom, but not more. It shall be fulfilled. So you see, he understood very well. He hasn't gotten to the bottom of this yet. So Queen Esther stands and said, "If I have won your majesty's favor, and if it pleases the king," you see how consistent she is? Everything depends upon pleasing the king. And the queen says, "I know that. I have no logic, I have no argument, I have no reason, no justice, no economic strategy. I hope to please the king." That's all. She knows very well what her position is. Yeah.
It's pretty interesting that, like, after his advisors or friends said something as if it was like destiny, like a prophetic statement, immediately happened.
Yes.
Because it says, while they were still talking to him.
That's right. You're right.
His downfall immediately happened within the hour.
100% right. And it's good. See, this is the stage props. This is the drama that the text doesn't let you figure out.
It says,
no, it tells you. I don't know, but listen to me. The text doesn't let you figure it out. The text tells you. It's written on the page. Well, you know where you have that in the Torah? Maybe it's only once where you have it in the Torah. Jacob comes in and brings food to Isaac for the meal, and then it says, Jacob has just gone out when Esau comes in. You see, on the stage, he's going out stage right, he's coming in stage left. They just missed each other. And so there's a little bit of this type of style. But Megillah Esther, as you see, is filled with this style. There's no subtlety to it. It's full blast, and all the ironical things are brought out and stated fully. So you shouldn't miss anything. It's very, very interesting style. So he says, "What is your request and what is your petition?" She says, "I won your favor. My favor pleases the king. Let my life be granted to me as my request." Yes, you're right. I have something I'm asking for that's for me personally, my life. My life is in danger. And my people, as my petition, because petition, as I told you, is a matter of social significance, political significance, and I want the life of my people, which is going to be a political problem for you, and that's what I'm asking for. For we have been sold, I and my people. Notice she puts herself first.
She still doesn't say she's a Jew. She doesn't actually say it.
Well, now she's saying it.
No, she didn't say it.
I and my people?
I and my people, okay. She didn't say
My people! My people! Who's the people who are under threat? The Jewish people, right? I and my people. Why is she under threat? She's under threat because she's a Jew. But now, why should she put it in that order? If you don't understand the whole scenario as it develops, what egotism? I'm more important than the people? I count more than the people? But that's
Achashverosh cares more about her than the people.
B'diuk. Achashverosh cares more about her than the whole people in the whole, not the whole kingdom, because he put that limit on the petition, right?
Yeah,
Up to,
of course.
but she's trying to use leverage, and she knows he's charmed by her, and he said, me, your queen. She can't say who loves you, because it isn't true, but you love me, right? And I'm here, right? And my people. She's saying it. Every move that she makes is very sophisticated. You'll see.
She's very smart.
Yeah, she's very smart.
How,
She's,
how doesn't he see that?
who?
The king. How doesn't he understand? She speaks so sophisticated and she's like a proper Jew.
Why don't you think he understands?
I'll tell you why. I agree with him. I don't think she. But we only see the sophistication because we know what she's playing to. The king doesn't define himself that way. He doesn't think of himself as dependent. He doesn't think of himself as foolish, right? We're saying it because we know how foolish he is, and we see how she plays to his foolishness, right? So, but he can't see that. Most people would just rationalize it away. He couldn't allow himself to see that. At any rate, so she says, "For we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, slain, and exterminated," which is a quotation from the promulgation. "Had we been sold as slaves and servant girls, I would have kept quiet, for the adversary is not worthy of the king's damage." This is poetical words here. It could be read in a number of different ways. But what she's saying is, this is annihilation. And only because it's annihilation am I troubling the king and perhaps causing the king some loss. I would never have done it for anything less. If it had been something less, I wouldn't have said a word. But this is annihilation, and therefore I feel that I can't do otherwise. I must do this. And now she's going to say, like, how can I live without my people, and so forth and so on. Okay, we'll pick it up tomorrow again. She goes on and on. Every move is crafted, as you'll see.